Okay, so hi everyone. Can you hear back with Alan?
And
Yeah, so we dropped off with our renderer part. So shall we continue with that?
I go also.
Yeah, so far we have assuming that we have fetched all the tweets using either the API or some kind of puppeteer option. And now we are going to render the actual PDF or output. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now if we come to the renderer file, so based on the format, this is the function that is called. So based on the format, it will either be PDF or EPUB. We will call the corresponding functions. Okay.
Okay.
So here, if you look at general PDF, it is importing from dot slash PDF. So it is here dot slash PDF on the left.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And inside that, if you look at index.js, we have this function generate PDF. Okay. So
Okay.
here it is getting the tweets and the output path as the argument that we passed from the previous section.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then it calls HTML content is await render template given a parameter and a thread variable. Let's see what that is happening. Render template is in uh, render template parameter. Okay, it's here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So essentially what is happening is we have a HTML template and we want to insert the tweet data into that HTML template and we want to get a HTML content.
Okay.
And what will happen is from that HTML content, we will create a PDF.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Okay, so if you look at this render template, so it is reading a file, templates slash template name handle pass. So thread was the template name that was passed in. So this is a function that is provided in Node.js to read a file. It's coming from
Okay.
default file system module.
Okay.
It's
So
not
that should be a
installed.
core one.
Yeah, it is a core. It's a default core one. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
look at it, it's not immediately obvious that it is a core one, but it does not have the Java kind of a convention where you have the package name to indicate it's from
Yeah.
core.
Yeah. Okay.
So first glance, you might think this is another module that we npm installed, but actually this is from the core.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Got it. Got it.
It is reading from this templates thread.hps. Okay.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So opening this, it is a HTML file, HTML tag, and coming down, there is a lot of CSS here,
Oh.
and this is the actual content here. So,
Mm-hmm.
so it is taking. So I think this will resonate with you in terms of the JSP part.
Yeah, it does. The
Yeah,
tags.
exactly. So we have the content and then some if blocks and then the variable is used. So this data is
Hmm.
being available here.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
so based on that, we are doing some processing and we are generating the entire HTML based on that. So for each data, it will create a tweet container. So this will be a loop.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So you'll be building div sections based on that
Yeah,
for
exactly.
each one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is the thread part. And coming back, so essentially what happened is after calling this render template, it will generate us the HTML content after putting in the variables and calculating all the logic.
Okay.
Now we are doing this function called create PDF, which is okay, again this here. It is taking the HTML content and the output path. So essentially, this is what will finally create the PDF from this HTML and put it into the output path.
Okay.
So if you look at this,
Neat.
yeah, create PDF. So here also it is using Puppeteer. So taking
Ah,
Puppeteer,
okay.
we are setting the content as the HTML. So it is opening a page with
Mhm.
that HTML content,
Mhm.
and it's saying it should be type printing.
Oh, okay.
And printing format. So it is calling the PDF function in Puppeteer. So it will generate a PDF
Okay.
with the format A5, giving margin, some extra parameters I mentioned here.
Mhm.
So once this code is executed, we like we saw earlier, here this PDF is created.
Okay.
Uh, coming back here. So here we generate PDF. So so once we generate the PDF, it just comes back returns. That's all. Nothing extra to do there. Nothing to return because it has
Right, right, right.
generated the PDF.
So that's a thing. So I just had a sudden thought. Like if you want, you mentioned that the size A5, uh, uh, the PDF, the layout, the PDF that's generated is of hard coded value A5, right?
Hmm.
The format.
Hmm.
Yep. So why is it A5? Why not A4 or stuff like that?
Yeah. So with the Kindle, its screen size is somewhat, I think, A5 or a B5 is the kind
Mm-hmm.
of screen size that is apt for the Kindle. So since in
Oh,
this
okay.
case we are generating a PDF, if we're generating an
Mhm.
A4 PDF, it will get squashed and it will not look as like it will look very
Yeah,
zoomed
right,
out.
right, right. Yeah.
So that is why we've gone for an A5. I'm not sure if so. I think Tolga was the person he has worked on this format.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he has
Mm-hmm.
spent some time identifying that A5 is the right format.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I'm not very much sure on this if this is the right thing to do or not. But that
Yeah.
is
Okay.
being run
But
right.
yeah, yeah, as you said, most probably that would be the 90%. That would cover 90% of the use cases.
Yeah, logically it makes sense that it could look like an A5, right?
Yeah, it does. But I was thinking like if you have to create something like a three-page pamphlets or something, not sorry, not pamphlets, three-page reports,
Mm-hmm.
where you could consolidate all the tweets.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have the 100 tweets as a limit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe with the latest second, that has been crossed over. So if that's the case, and you're gonna need to consolidate the tweets, you might go for an A4 or something. Right? So
Yeah.
whether
Yes, I understand your point. So coming at it from a kind of like a publishing a book angle, definitely we would need to look into how we can incorporate it into the A4 format or make it much more
or at
publishable
least
and
yeah, parameterizing that
exactly.
A5.
Yeah, rather than hard coding it, we would need to figure out how we can have a desktop based view, right? But for at
Yeah,
least
exactly.
looking at the initial flow, for a Kindle based flow, we can hard code it for now, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's for sure. Like
yeah.
Intel, it's perfect, but yeah, because I think like the book publications, like they are even promoting that even desktop compatibility
Hmm.
versus the
Hmm.
Kindle actual app compatibility.
Okay, okay.
I mean, there may be people who are not. Uh, I'm not quite sure whether that they do download a Kindle or a PDF, but they don't own a Kindle, and so they
Yeah,
do some workaround, and then they read the actual book in their laptops itself.
yeah, got it.
I know
Yeah,
a couple of guys. So, uh,
that
yeah,
could be an option.
even that could be an option.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Anyways, just to walk you through our thought process also is that um, we are encouraging everyone to contribute wherever, however they feel like. So, in the sense that we are not telling them that it has to be at the like highest level, but
Mm-hmm.
if say so initially this actually was saying A4, but then
Mm-hmm.
so we got that end to end working, and then I think someone Tolga or someone has pitched in the issue that it should be an A5. There was an issue created for that, so there was a discussion behind that, and based
Mm-hmm.
on that, I think people shared their thoughts, and then we changed it to A5 or something. So
Oh,
once
okay.
so as and when we are encountering something, we are creating an issue, we are discussing about it, and then we are thinking, okay, how can we change the code? So that is
Okay.
the kind of an organic evaluation that is happening. But like you mentioned, we might need to change it in the future. Maybe something like
Okay.
a just like the argument that we saw right earlier, something like that probably.
Problem. So, yeah. So another question that's coming to my mind is,
Hmm.
suppose that there's a use case that I think, oh, it might be good for the code base or something like that.
Hmm.
How is it possible for me to raise an issue or like bring it to your concern, like
Hmm. Hmm.
whether this kind of feature can be implemented, or whether is it good to have, is it against the architecture, or is it feasible stuff like that.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. So we encourage anyone to create issues on GitHub, and
Okay.
if you look at it, I mean, mostly it's created by the core members only, but there is no such
Okay.
thing as core members as far as we are concerned.
Okay.
We are saying anyone who wants to contribute anything. So, if you look at the closed issues, so there are a lot of things about the CLI that are bugs. Huh? There are some
Mm-hmm.
advanced use cases. There are some first, intermediate, beginner level issues. Those are
Mm-hmm.
there. Then this JavaScript code. This is a documentation.
Oh, okay.
This is an error someone is facing when they are running the CLI. So we saw the running the CLI earlier, right?
Yeah.
This is something about testing code. So
Oh,
anything and
okay.
everything that anyone wants to discuss about, we are encouraging them to create a issue here. So if you look at it, different people are so Aram has created this one, Proful, Shaker, and then I think this one was Foxtrot, someone, Aditya or someone.
Okay.
So Aditya, I'm not sure if I've talked to him before. I think he's a new person. So
Okay.
anyone can come in and put any issue. You can just create a new issue and then that's it. There is no questions asked. So
Yeah.
if someone feels that okay, what you're raising is a valid question, or if there is a valid use case or a point that you have to contribute, then we will other people will also pitch in and see how we might do it. So there are enhancements or any bugs, whatever. So see this adding the
Mm-hmm.
loading spinner. So that was
Mm-hmm.
something we added recently. That the Aura thing that we saw earlier. The Aura
Okay.
thing. So someone commented it would be nice to add something like that. And then Michael stepped in and said, okay, I want to implement it. Then Michael worked on it and then created a pull request for it. So if you,
Uh-huh.
coming from GitLab from your side, the pull request is equivalent to a merge request.
Oh, okay, 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 okay.
So we can see the sample screenshot he has added and files, whatever I've changed. So you can look at, take a look at, okay, so spinner was added, spinner start, right, spinner fail.
Uh-huh.
That
Oh,
way
that's
very
nice.
interesting. Right? So we are encouraging anyone to whatever they see and whatever they want, they feel that it's important, they can just raise an
Hmm.
issue. If it is important for other people also, then they'll also contribute. But if it if
Mm-hmm.
someone, even if I put a issue and people think okay this is not worth anything, people will not comment on it, and then eventually we'll just close it because nobody wants to talk about
Oh,
it.
okay,
So
okay.
there
So
is no.
when is this? Okay, so if I post a new issue, when is this gonna get discussed or picked up in a conversation?
So this is
When does
entirely
that
on
happen?
them, I would say, because if you look at any of these, everyone is in asynchronous mode. So here
Oh, okay.
there is a there is an issue that has been there. He has assigned me and Mira, but we
Mm-hmm.
haven't commented on it 2 days ago. So that's just, I'm just
Okay.
opening it randomly. So here low priority VS code issue. So 2 days ago, and then he commented. I mean, if I look at the time zone, okay, 7 a.m. was the initial comment. Then a response came at 10 a.m. Then 10, and then when did I respond? 1 p.m. So it's all
Mm-hmm.
totally asynchronous.
Okay, 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 okay.
So just anything that you see that could be improved. Okay, so some errors being shown, or you see that okay, we saw a sample PDF, right? There was a spacing issue or some image was broken in between. So those things also you can, whatever you feel that you can raise an issue, or even you can raise a pull request if it's something that is very simple. So maybe there is a typo here, you can just create a pull request for it. So that is something that we encourage.
Okay. That's nice. So one more question, like, is there any compulsion that the guy who raises the issue has to solve the issue?
Not really. If you look at many of those, it is definitely not the original person who has solved the issue. Many of the
Mm-hmm.
beginners are trying to run the code and they are also posting issues. So it is not
Uh-huh.
that they have to do it. There is no such compulsion.
Oh,
Whatever
okay,
you're
that's
saying
good.
that can be improved, you can pitch it. And if you want to do it, you can do it. That is up to you.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, a lot of guys are good at product, but most are better than with the code. And there are guys who are just the opposite.
Mhm.
They don't really like. They're not bothered about the direction of the product, but they are like really
What
skilled
needs
with
to
how
be
to
done.
do the code. Yeah, exactly. So so if it is not the if the person who has to raise the issue, who raises the issue is not uh, compelled to solve the problem, then this workflow would be good.
Yeah,
Like
and yeah,
one
it does.
guy.
So what that encourages is that you can be anyone. You don't need to be a developer to
Yeah,
raise this question.
you just need to know enough to deploy the code in the local. That's about it.
Yeah, or anything else that you see that should be improved. So, for example, like I told you, we have the YouTube, right? So we have the YouTube channel. Um, if you see that okay, something needs to be changed here, or for example, one issue was to create a common kind of a format for the video thumbnail. So that was created as an issue. It's not directly related to code,
Mm-hmm.
but an issue was created to collaborate on bringing about a common YouTube thumbnail. If you look at the
Oh,
discussion
okay.
with Praveen, discussion with Melissa, daily call, discussion with Aravind. So those kind of things that also happens. So it's not just code; it's also design. It's also say like text tone, or this could be phrased differently. Everything and anything is created in an issue.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So it's essentially issues where every collaboration happens, at least asynchronously.
Mm-hmm.
Then we do have our daily meetings at 5 o'clock IST. So we have the link here,
Okay,
5 p.m. IST, and anyone
okay,
can
okay.
use the time zone converter to convert it. So what time it is
Okay.
at that time zone. So
Okay.
that
So,
is that.
what's the day? No, like, what's the daily meeting all about? Like, is it like a stand-up, or do you discuss the raised issues,
Yeah. So it's
something like that?
essentially a stand up where
Mm-hmm.
anyone can have a discussion on anything that they're working on,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone is encouraged to speak, even though
Okay.
they might not have worked on anything. That's also fine. If they are facing any problems, they can say that. I mean, like some people do not create an issue; they just speak during the meeting. So then someone else
Oh,
creates the
okay.
issue, and then
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So
so it's
basically, it triggers discussions amongst
exactly.
everybody.
Yeah.
Ah,
And
okay,
if
okay,
there is an
nice.
issue that needs discussion, we probably we have had a few comments on the issue, but we need to actually talk in person. Then that also happens.
Yeah.
And we also try
Oh, that's
to
nice. Mhm.
what do you say, um, promote the things that people have done. So if someone has done a good job on they've contributed the first time, or they have made a significant change, they fixed a significantly difficult bug, then we try to highlight that and give them some credit for that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really important as far as the code piece, the maintenance of a code piece is concerned. Uh,
Mm.
Contributions as well as the actual appreciation. It's from a personal point of view or from a collective point of view. It's really critical.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
very
yeah,
welcoming
so,
community, I think. So we are encouraging everyone to make mistakes. That is fine. You are encouraging people to ask doubts whenever they have any doubts. So
yeah,
it's a safe space, unlike
and
unlike how it is in most corporates.
so you, yeah, you'll get slaughtered if the code is not perfect. It depends upon the guy who's going to be reviewing your code. Yeah. On that note, I would like to ask a question. So,
Mm,
how do you review the code?
mm,
Uh,
yeah.
when a person raises a PR,
Mm.
how do you? Is it a core team that's reviewing, or just two people needs to see it, or is it like? Is it as you do it in the corporate, or is it something else?
Yeah. So what we do is we try to encourage everyone to review the codes. Okay. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
PR happens, we try to say whatever you're looking at. If you see a
Mm-hmm.
PR and you have some idea about what it is doing, you take a look
Mm-hmm.
at it, and anyone can come here and do this review. So they can comment on
Uh-huh.
or approve or request changes.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in this very early stage, we are not very hard and fast about okay, this has to be perfect code or anything, nothing like that. As long as the
Mm-hmm.
person says that it works, then it's fine. We're not going to scrutinize it too much. And for some, what do you say? Initially, at least, when we had the concept of the pull request, when people were learning about the pull request, at that time we encouraged anyone, because it is just text-based file, right? So we
Yeah.
encourage anyone and everyone to review the pull request, and if there are two people who are agreeing that this pull request is good to go, we do not look at the diff at all. We just merge it in.
Oh,
So
okay, okay, okay.
that was the kind of way that we started out. But for these code changes also, what I mostly do is I just take a look, and if it kind of solves the thing, I just go for it. Oh, see, it is. So the code that we saw earlier, it's made much more clean right now. So I think Puro, he has refactored it in between.
Oh, right,
This
right,
PR
right,
was
right, right.
created 4 months ago. So it is just abstracting away all those kind of things into a get to its function, and so that's how we are evolving. So it is not like we are doing everything by the book. Things are slowly organically evolving, and it gets better over time. So user IDs becomes usernames or whatever, right?
Oh, that's nice.
So I don't really know whatever. So I mean, some things what he did make sense, and I'm just saying, okay, it might be this Puro, he ensures that he's doing the code correctly or whatever. So most probably, if someone is working on this code, they will probably have some idea about how to do it, and we know who. So like at least on a personal level, we understand who all have been contributing for a long time. So Puru and Meera, they have been contributing for a long time, and so we don't need to look at it at all. But if it's someone much more newer, then I would maybe go through it and then give some suggestions, like help them understand what they are doing, how they could do it differently, or what would be the best practice. So I'll just add comments, like I can just create a comment here, right?
Right, right, right,
So I
right.
provide some feedback for them so that they can improve and those kind of things.
Ah, yeah.
So in this
Because
case,
yeah.
I just go ahead and merge it. So that's done. And the nice thing about GitHub, I think GitLab also has it. So when you say closes the in the description, it will automatically close that associated issue.
Oh, okay.
It's closed. So you don't need to come back and then close this again. So that's all. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
how the merge and the reviews happen.
that's nice. So, so this way you get two pairs of eyes looking at the code. Uh, that's
Hmm.
statistically good because that's like that one of the most efficient ways. Like at least it's a practical way to review the code.
Yeah, more is better.
Uh, yeah, the more is better. But you can't have like 10 pairs of eyes watching for every PR. Right?
You can't
Yeah,
enforce that
but two,
because then it would be
you
very
can't enforce that. Yeah, so that's great. And then people can do different types of what, features inside this. Like if it is a beginner, then he can improve upon the functionality or take up somebody's PR. Or if it's like an intermediate guy, he can clean up the code or improve the data structures or stuff like that. So basically, yeah, from a personal JavaScript knowledge point of view, it's gonna be like you're polishing whatever you know. Either it's whether it's a refresher thing that you have learned long back, or it's a completely new thing. It's really good. Or if it's an intermediate guy, you learn about the intermediate stuff.
yeah. We
And
all,
or if you're really, really good, then you can actually do the proper code review.
yeah, everyone has something to do actually, and everyone has something to learn from it. So
Yeah,
it's all in all useful for anyone with any kind of experience.
yeah.
So that is the kind of progress that we
The,
are having.
yeah, it's a nice atmosphere.
So did we finish the code actually? Did we?
Yeah, we went from end to end, right?
So yeah. So I think we just we reached here rendering part. Hmm?
Hmm.
One more part is there. That is actual sending to
Ah,
Kindle. So what happens is
wait, we already published it, right?
we created the PDF file here, right? We saw the PDF file,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and we have a module which sends this file to the Kindle. So
Oh, okay,
just
okay, okay.
run the
Got it.
run the command and it's in your Kindle.
Okay. Oh,
So
that's nice.
so what that I'll just give you the high level overview. We don't need to look into it. So essentially,
Mm-hmm.
what it does is Amazon has implemented a way that we can send an email with an attachment PDF, and it will automatically be added to our Kindle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we're using an SMTP email sending module to
Mm-hmm.
send an email to our Kindle email,
Mm-hmm.
and based on the and once that is sent, it will show up in our Kindle library on the device. So
Okay.
I have actually written a bit more about it on the wiki. If you come to sending PDF to Kindle, so I just mentioned more about how that node mailer thing is working, how the what all username and password you to give it, how the sending code is coming here, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
is essentially the code that is sending me.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't want to jump into it. I mean, we do have documentation for a lot of other things also that we discussed manually right now. But what I'm saying is, most of these things are documented. But um, at least for keeping things short, we'll stop here for this
For the
one.
time, because of the time constraint.
Yeah. Exactly. Uh, just one more thing I'd like to show you.
Yeah, sure.
We have. So you saw this particular. I'll just open the folder. You see the stick, the green tick.
Mm-hmm.
So what is happening in the background? Let me see if I can. Okay, okay. Fair enough. Yeah. So in the background, whenever a pull request is coming in, we are running some tests.
Mm-hmm.
So we have in the code base we have written some tests, and
Oh, nice.
we created a pipeline where any pull request
Uh-huh.
it will run tests, and if it
Okay.
will be getting the red error cross X mark.
Mm.
So this will like give us immediately an idea that okay, this is good to go. It does not break any of the existing tests, so you can see the tick mark here. If it is breaking, it will give us in a big warning sign that okay, this particular is not passing, right?
So, will it prevent the merging of the code with the master branch
It
if the
I don't think
build
we have
fails?
enforced that, but at least it
Mm-hmm.
will show us that there is an error.
Yeah. Okay. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. So if you look at the code, if I come back to the code, anyway, so we are done with all the main part, but I'll just show you how the test works here. So
Mm-hmm.
here we have some API tests and some util tests. Just just the basic scaffolding is only done. We have not written tests exhaustively. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how we would do it is in Twindle CLI, I would say npm run test.
Okay.
So when I'm running that, it essentially looks through the code base and finds all the test file, and it runs the test. So ideally it should
Mm-hmm.
pass unless I make some change. So for example, if I what do I just change this. So I'm just inverting this. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if I run the test now, so it shows there is an error,
Uh-huh. Okay.
and it says that okay, this is the problem. I mean, this is
Right.
not a
Right.
good
Right.
way to explain errors, but
Yeah. I
testing.
got it. I got it. I got the gist of it.
Yeah, and they also have a watch mode, so we can test code and watch it. Uh, so basically, this npm run, it is basically taking from this package JSON. We have
Mm-hmm.
certain scripts. Okay,
Okay.
so this is abstracting what is happening. So if I'm running npm run test, it is running a test runner called jest in the background.
Okay.
So I don't need to know
Mm.
the exact command to do that. And test watch is like it is running test dash dash watch. So this is specific
Mm.
that command and argument needed for just to run this. So that's just
Okay. Oh,
convention in
okay.
Node that we are able to do that. And I think this is not watching; it is breaking or something. Let me just put it back. I need to work it. So what watch does is, okay, it is not watch. Fine, that means something else is wrong with what okay. So maybe this command is wrong. Someone will fix it, or I'll create an issue
Yeah.
to asking someone to fix it.
Maybe there is a refactor in jest code.
Yeah, something might be missing here. So we
Yeah.
can probably, I think it could also be, I think this might fix it. Yeah, now it is watching. So if I make a change, yeah, so it is like throwing that error. Hmm?
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
And then it is still watching. So if I don't need to run it again, I can just save it and then it will run. So at least right
Okay.
now it is saying that there is no change after last commit, huh? Or it will,
Mhm.
but that is fine because we are expecting that since the last commit it would be already be working because we
Yeah.
have the test in place already here also. So we will be
Hmm.
ensuring that everything is passing.
Yeah, it would be flagged inside somewhere that it
Yes.
is working.
Another
Yes.
interesting thing is there is we are using this pipeline that is called Actions, GitHub Actions.
Mhm.
One more very interesting thing is you can see this section latest YouTube videos.
Oh, okay.
This is live. This is being populated. I think they are running this once an hour to look at the YouTube. What is it? I don't know, the YouTube XML feed, and if
Uh-huh.
there is anything new, it will keep updating. So,
Oh, that's nice.
so if you look at the code here, that is,
Yeah, so it black like an RSS feed, right?
yeah, it is taking from
Giving
an
you the latest news.
exactly. So it's like running like a cron job, and so it will repeat every hour.
Ah, okay.
Fetch data from YouTube. It will like write it to that section and read it. So it will create a new commit. I think if I look at the commits, there might be one commit I can show you. Yeah, there's this one. So, so it has added that one particular YouTube video.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, that's about it from my side. Anything that you would like to?
No, this is wonderful. So yeah, so I'm stealing this idea from one of the other softwares that I usually use. It's YouTube DL, which
Ah,
I commonly used to download the YouTube videos. So they initially wrote the thing in Python, and it was CLA, and then afterwards they simply created a GUI for it.
hmm.
So if you want to go in that direction, like
Hmm.
at least start talking about it, how do you start on that?
Yeah, I think in terms of the high level direction, that is
Mm-hmm.
something that Proful is our what do I say leader.
Yeah.
So Proful has thought through this. So what we're thinking is at least in the first phase, we would be focusing on the CLI part so that
Mm-hmm.
we can refine all the code and we can publish it on npm so that other people can also use it, they can also give feedback. All those kind of things can
Mm-hmm.
happen in the first phase.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So once the CLI reaches a particular point of maturity in its life cycles, then we can go on to GUI or whatever.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
afterwards it
Okay.
might be
This
like a
is.
web page, web based thing
Uh,
where
uh, 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 uh.
we use aws lambda to generate the pdf, probably using the
Okay.
same
Okay.
cli.
Yeah. Yeah. By that time, Twindle would have found a particular identity, like to meet the, like people will have fixed a couple of expectations on this code base.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, we are
Uh,
active on Twitter and we are talking about it on Twitter. So whenever we have, we like whenever something end to end is working, for example. So once the sending to Kindle part was done, we
mhm.
created a tweet about it. Lots of people came in. Okay, they are interested in using it, all those kind of things. So organically it is
Mhm.
growing.
Okay. Yeah, then okay. Then another thought that I have, maybe it's because I've come from the
Yeah.
corporate kind of thing. Because I mean, there's always this preach about. I mean, everybody's preaching about the importance of test cases.
Hmm.
But as a developer, it is really boring to write on test cases. But what's your thought on top of that? Like, how
Hmm.
important are they,
Yeah.
the test
So
cases?
if I am the only person writing the code,
Hmm.
I think that I would know whatever is happening in the code base. If it is a
Yeah,
small
sure.
code base,
Yeah.
in that case, then it could be you could say that I don't need tests because I know what I'm doing. You could say that,
Mhm.
but even in that case,
Mm.
it is a good thing to have tests. But what I'm saying is, if I'm a lone wolf and I'm only working on a single code base by myself, perhaps you could say tests are not that important. But in this
Okay.
case, when we have an open source kind of a project where multiple
Mhm.
people are touching the code on a daily basis,
Mm.
what can happen is not everyone, like you saw that I was fumbling through the code, right? Not everyone knows
Yeah.
what someone else has written. Hmm? So then
Mm.
what happens is if I have to make a change in the code, I might introduce some error because I don't know exactly what is happening there.
Mhm.
Right. So there is a chance that I might create a commit and that might get merged in, which is breaking something. It could be an edge case, but it is breaking something that someone else has written.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So in that angle, it is definitely a very valuable thing to have tests if we can have the full coverage that we can
Mm.
say, okay, I am making a change and I am certain that I have not broken any existing functionality.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I got that point.
And also in
So,
the pull
what would you
request.
say? Sorry,
Yeah.
from the point of view of a junior, like or a novice, like me, if you're gonna, what do you think? More test, which one would be more intimidating? Having no test cases at all, or having some test cases, or having a lot of test cases?
I think having some is also a bad thing because
Hmm.
it is not giving you much of confidence in terms of um, that it is not covering. If it is not covering the entire code base to some reasonable extent, then there is not much value in having the test.
Yeah, but if the yeah, okay, I agree with to that point. But if the code, if a large portion of a code is gonna get refactored like frequently, then having test cases is also a bother, right? Because
Yeah,
now you not just have to do with the test or the actual code, but you also have to maintain the test cases,
yeah, exactly.
which is,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
guess
that's
a
a good
coin
point
has
that
two
you
sides.
that's a good point that you raised. So I would suppose that at least in the initial stages when before we are shipping to the public, I think it is fine not
Hmm.
to have test cases. But once we are
Oh, okay.
committing that, okay, there is something that we have that is working for the public, then we should ensure that we are not having regressions, those kind of things. So at least what I would think is, like I mentioned before, there was a complete refactor of the Twitter module. So before
Hmm.
that, if we had written tests, so before that, it was actually very difficult to write tests because the code was a bit convoluted and there were a lot of side effects. So
Hmm.
the refactor was intended also to be able to give us the option to write tests in the first place. So I think at least in
Hmm.
the first, as a first iteration, so we had the initial code and we had one refactor on it. So at least at this point, I think it is a decent candidate to write some tests, so that at least we know
Okay.
that things are going good for it. But you know, in
Yeah.
the future,
Okay.
if
Yeah. At least on those features that hasn't been or no pull request has been suggested on some features, like for I don't know 1 month or 2 months, suggesting that it has reached a point of maturity.
yeah, so
Maybe.
here it is weeks or days rather than months.
Ah, all right. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
you understand.
timelines.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, but yeah, like you mentioned, it once it has reached a certain maturity in terms of how it runs and a certain maturity in terms of how the code is structured, then I think it makes sense to write tests for it. And um, I don't think that beginners will jump into writing tests, but it's a good way to
oh no,
also
I won't. I won't suggest that either. Uh, it's like having no fun at all, and having to how can I say this in a more proper way? It's like taking away
Not
all
knowing
the
what to
fun, but having to endure the pain.
yeah
At least that's the way I think about it.
but yeah, maybe coming from a Java background, I don't know if the tests are very monotonous or difficult to run. I do not know if I am biased, but I think tests are not that difficult, but definitely not for a beginner. Once you
Huh.
only once you understand how these things are interacting with each other and you have some idea about the code base, then I would recommend looking into tests. But it is good to read tests because you understand okay what the code is
Yeah,
doing.
definitely. Because especially if the documentation is not up to the mark,
Mhm.
tests are the second best thing. And
Mhm.
also, it's good because the documentation would give you uh, the
High
upon
level.
the high level from an outsider's perspective, which is useful for a dev as well as a product guy or a guy who's
Mm,
just gonna who's just gonna download it and use it, but
mm,
doesn't care about the internal implementation. But the
mm.
tests are for like it will tell the developer what to look for, what to watch out for, which are the important variables, what does what, and so on and so forth.
Mm. Yeah.
You once you are properly into or you're trying to dive into a fresh code base, test will always save you a hell of a
Yeah.
lot of time and trying to analyze a code base.
And also also when you're making a change, you can be sure okay, I'm not breaking anyone else's code. I won't be having an angry manager behind me saying that.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That too is there. You'll be sure that you're not gonna piss off the rest of the 1,000 people in the community either.
Yeah. So any closing words, Alan, before we wrap up?
Oh yeah, yeah. I would like to ask one more point on that.
Sure,
And
go for it.
yeah, so like there are features like Sonar Cube or stuff like that that ensures the code quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these things are there. Like I don't know whether you need to buy them or things like that, but once you incorporate this into the pipeline, it essentially first it runs the test whether the tests are successful or not,
Mhm.
and then afterwards it would check for whether uh, basically Martin follows recommendations on clean code, whether there are data clumps or whether the any refactoring is needing, or if there are useless if else cases or stuff like that,
Mm,
or redundant code, dead code,
mm,
many more things like that. uh, no, I'm only asking this because uh, whenever my test cases fail in the pipeline, when I give pull request
mm,
in the in my corporate code base, I learn a bit, not a lot,
mm,
but a bit. It's a pain in the neck, but still, you learn a bit more about the clean code
yeah.
and how to uh, improve your own code quality without anybody directing you. So
Mm, mm,
that's
mm.
one part of it. So yeah, that's my take on this topic. On you can implement this thing in the pipeline build, so that would automatically ensure that the code is of a minimum standard.
Mm, mm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's the working theory. But do you recommend to implement this or not?
yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So Sonar Cube.
Especially keeping the junior developers in mind,
Okay. So
the newbie.
in a way, how I say that Sonar Cube could be useful is partly partly taking away some of our headaches in terms of having to
Mm-hmm.
look at every line of the code and like as humans we also miss some things, right? So
Yeah,
having
definitely.
having something that is automated which will look at our code and say if okay this thing should be changed or not, that definitely adds to the value. And for junior developers, when they see okay there is something that is missing, then they can, I think there are some analysis or something, so at least they can take a look at okay why this is not a good thing, whatever code they've written. Why is
Yeah.
it
So
considered not?
yeah, these things they usually like give out a report uh, if there is a pipeline failure
Mhm.
or a quality failure. It's just saying, okay, the code quality is not good enough. Please, can you try doing this? It recommends the code, the correction code as well.
Yeah.
So it identifies the problem. I mean, basically, I think there are like 16 or 17 types of problems that is recommended in
Okay.
Martin Fowler's book. I mean, basically, it's implementing those, and then it also incorporates the suggestions like what the better solution would be,
Hmm.
like whether you okay, I can only talk in terms of Java, but whether you need to create another class or whether
Hmm.
you need to refactor some of the code to some other location, whether there is too many ifs in the statement, or if it's too
Hmm.
complex
Hmm.
the logic,
Hmm.
if it's exceeding a particular line limit and stuff like that.
Hmm. Hmm. Got it.
So
So
yeah,
I think also to
it
add to
would
that,
help you. Hmm.
um, maybe very early in the code base, it might be a bit of a, what do we call it, headache
Pain.
to have to handle all these. Yeah.
Yeah.
But once it starts to mature and people have to read it and analyze it, then it would make
Hmm.
very much sense to ensure that all these things are standardized, or whatever code we're writing is comprehensible.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I think there is a GitHub action for it, so probably we can just install it from here. So it might be very easy to do. I think they have open source. I don't know. I have to check. I think they have open source free option or something. So, but I'll probably not do it right now. You could maybe you could create an issue for it. This could be your first
Uh,
issue.
oh yeah, I guess I can see if you install it, then it will take away the code review capacity of some people maybe.
I mean,
I mean,
there are pros and cons, right? So I think
yeah, definitely.
enterprise code
That would
definitely,
be,
because
yeah, enterprise. It's gonna be a headache. I mean, nobody wants to do more. Nobody wants more work in their inbox. But
yeah,
just
especially for a legacy code base. Yeah.
yeah, especially. But in this code base, it's robust, it's young, it's a dynamic. The code review process is also important, or to say the least, it's as important as a new PR.
Mm,
So,
mm.
I mean, like the
Got it.
creation of a new PR. Even the reviewer either learns a lot or is training some other part of his knowledge. So I guess adding, yeah, I get your point that adding Sonar Cube into this early of the product life cycle
Hmm.
would be harmful to the actual product
Yeah,
or
we
to the
might
code base.
lose a bit of our pace. That is the only,
Oh,
because
not just the pace, but also the skill building angle as well for the multitude of developers,
mm, mm,
the
mm,
participants in the programs.
mm.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on. Yeah, and yeah, don't install Synapse.
Yeah, but definitely it's one for the future. It's a good thing
Yeah,
that
maybe when you go on to AWS or something
mm,
on the phase two of the project.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, yeah, I think I'm all out of questions right now. These are the major thoughts that I had that I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. So I think we had a very good discussion on this, and we had a very good walkthrough of the code. And Alan has shared his perspectives on how he sees certain parts of the code base, certain parts of how our processes are.
Yeah, a narrow view.
Yeah, but still, yeah, it's good to hear from someone who is not directly a part of Twindle, because, like you said, narrow view. We are also having a narrow view because we are in this for a while now. So it's always good to get an outsider's perspective on this. So I'd say thank you, Alan, for taking time out and having this discussion with us. I think that it would be very useful for most of the people watching it, especially for the beginners. Um,
Yeah, I really do hope so.
Anything else you want to add?
No, once, there's not much I have to add. Like, thank you for having me, and it's been my pleasure. And I hope to see this code base grow more faster and better with due time, and I'll also be a member of this.
Yeah, and I hope that you will also try to contribute to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
can expect some good PRs from me here.
Awesome.
I'm not. Well, I won't promise any code, but at least I'll promise some suggestions of design changes.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Okay, then then shall we shall stop. Okay.
All right. See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.